So my name is Marijana Sreckovic and I'm from the Vienna University of Technology, and I'm going to present a short overview of a research project that has just started recently. And we are conducting this project with our Institute of Interdisciplinary Construction Process Management and also colleagues from the Institute of Computer Engineering and also some companies which are coming from different parts of, let's say, different fields which are dealing with reuse, recycling, and so on. So the project is called DigitalCycle or DiCYCLE, where we are looking at the end-of-life phase of buildings. So how did this project come about? Actually, it's a follow-up project of an already ongoing transnational, huge transnational project, where we are looking at the building's life cycle. And as you can see here, we have the design phase, the construction phase, and the operational phase. And we, from our institute, are looking at the possibilities to implement or explore actually blockchain and smart contracts in the design phase coupled with BIM. Colleagues from Germany, from Ruhr-Universität Bochum, are looking at the construction phase and the processes which could also be supported with blockchain and smart contracts, and also other colleagues from our university in the operational phase. And the project started in 2019. It's going to be finished at the end of this year. And as I said, the follow-up project is this project that I'm going to talk about. And what is important is also that it's funded by the Austrian Federal Ministry. And it's very unique in the sense that we really try to, let's say, now look at the whole life cycle and also different kinds of processes. And the challenges that we actually encountered when we started our project was thinking about blockchain and this whole technology is, of course, as everybody knows already, is you need standardized processes. You need processes which are repeated a lot of times, which can be automated. So the question for us was, okay, what kind of processes you have in design, in construction, and operation which could be supported in that kind of way? And as you all know, in the design phase, and we heard it several times already, we have the model and we have different disciplines working on the model, and you have different kinds of transactions, and then transactions actually include transactions in data and information more than payment. And of course, if you look at construction, we have much more flow of payments going on between the construction company and different kinds of subcontractors and so on. And in operation, we have, for example, energy monitoring, which could also be supported with that. So just that in short, to explain how this project came about and what our, of course, goal is to implement the framework that we have developed already or are in the finishing phase of developing, also in our currently running project for the end of life. So just a small, let's say here, information concerning our project BIM design so you can understand what we have done so far. So we have developed, let's say, a framework where we use a common data environment. You have here, for example, a network in the sense of a project where you see different organizations. Of course, you have much more organizations, but just here as an example. For example, two different organizations, what could be an architectural office, the other could be a structural engineering office or a building physicist or whatever. So we have different kinds of stakeholders here, and each are in their own organization. So they have their own common data environment with different kinds of data information and so on. And what we have done in this project is we were thinking about, okay, how can we somehow synchronize this kind of data? Because as you all know, when the architect designs the model, for example, in one kind of software like Revit, you have the structural engineer who uses another kind of software and also the other participants. So you very soon come to the problem of information exchange, information loss, and so on. So what we were thinking about how to resolve that was, okay, we said we are, of course, including in this home framework that every organization has their own common data environment, as we heard already several times, but we are actually using the baseline protocol and also Speckle. The building model is actually done in Revit, and the building data is actually exchanged. So we have a framework where we have the model itself for the data concerning the model, of course, stored on the common data environment, but of course, the reference to the data is stored on the blockchain in cryptographic hash fingerprints. So to show you what I mean is, for example, we developed also a user interface with an application. So you have to log in when you want to use the system. And, for example, create a task. Here you have, for example, the head architect who creates a task for his designers in the team, and he wants, for example, a new concept for a wall. And he creates the task, and the responsible designers or other stakeholders upload the model into this, let's say, in the interface, and the model is actually there. And then the responsible person for this task can, of course, change this wall in the way it should be changed, and it is communicated to all of the participants in the system using here a baseline protocol and Speckle. As I mentioned, baseline is actually a standard for the synchronization of different business processes, and Speckle is actually an open source software which enables, let's say, the solving of interoperability issues and verification. So we are only using open source software in connecting this software also to BIM. So you can see, everybody can see then, okay, what has happened to this wall, what kind of changes and so on. So then you get a text message, which is not here empty, but it doesn't matter. Anybody can get the message, what is happening in the model and what needs to be, for example, done in advance. And then also you can also have some kind of assessment and verification and checking if everything is there, which will be done. So this is just a small, insight in what we have done already in the BIM design, because I think it's important just to understand what's so innovative in our, let's say, in our project. So what the novelty is, we use here different kind of, let's say, databases and different kinds of data management solutions and building design management also solutions and blockchain and smart contracts. And we also try to combine that. And it's, in our sense, an implementation-oriented analysis which tracks really the changes happening in the model. And what we wanted to do always is to support existing processes in the design phase. And and as I mentioned, this combination with baseline protocol and with Speckle. So this is something that's innovative in that sense. So coming back to DiCYCLE is what was the point of departure. As we all know, is that the AC industry is responsible for a huge amount of material extraction, waste production, CO2 emissions, and energy consumption. In Austria, for example, we have 70% of the waste only produced by the construction industry. And of course, you have different kinds of norms or legal, let's say, frameworks which suggest what you should do. For example, that construction demolition waste should be used or replaced if it's economically or ecologically feasible and sensible. But the problem is that these kind of processes are actually, or recycling-oriented separation and also decision in sense what do you do with the waste lies in the hand of the construction company or the demolition company. And this automatically puts the project, let's say, in a situation where you have companies which are absolutely not interested in doing that because it costs a lot of money, it needs time, whatever. So this is something that you encounter definitely when you look at the end of life phase. And for example, also in Austria, you have different kinds of norms which tell you, okay, the best way of demolition would be, for example, to use selective dismantling and so on. So in short, standardized processes for use and recycling are missing in the EU on the whole, and also procurement procedures for deconstruction. So if you look for BIM, for example, if we look at BIM and for the end of life. End of life processes, as I mentioned, are not defined or standardized, and that's why it's very difficult, let's say, to connect BIM-based AOL with any kind of data because it doesn't exist in that sense. I mean, no software, you can find no software which actually includes in BIM the end of life. So this is the situation, and it needs to change definitely in order to think about this circular economy. So There may be some local waste management guidelines which come into fruition, but it's very case specific. So one example would be, for example, to have an automated digital connection of life cycle assessment with BIM. This would, of course, enable relevant also to use relevant parameters in order to, let's say, design a new building and know how to redesign or deconstruct them in the later phase. So this is something that's already been discussed during this conference. So here are some examples. What could blockchain, let's say, do for the end-of-life phase? It could enable a material and energy traceability, predictions also for recycling and reuse then in a later phase, increase transparency and reliability of data for example, environmental product declaration, also end-to-end life cycle assessment availability, as I mentioned, or we heard it already in different, in a presentation, it can be coupled with QR codes, RFID, BIM, and so on, in order to, let's say, have a predictability in the whole life cycle and also maybe connected to crypto economic incentives and so on. So these are some examples what blockchain can do. And what we are doing in our project now is we're just in the initial phase, as I mentioned. We are, it's a work in progress. What we have a lot of cases from the industry that we are now mapping and trying to structurize in terms of processes which are existing for the end-of-life phase, where we look at the real-life projects also already conducted or different kinds of regulation and legal frameworks and so on. And in the next phase, we are going to couple the BIM parameters and relevant from the LF phase to the building information modeling. And then we are trying to develop new concepts or new business models which would support recycling and reuse in the end-of-life phase, and then also develop a kind of predictive tool which would enable to have some kind of estimation. If you know what the end-of-life phase is looking like, then you can also make some kind of prediction in what way to design and what way to include the possibility of recycling and use then for new projects. This all will be connected to the framework of BIM design and FM chain. These are the other products, and then we also have to do an evaluation. So just a small use case here, almost at the end. This is, for example, a use case of reuse, and this is from our project partner. This is a company called Material Nomads, and what they are specialized in is reusing building elements. And as you can see, for example, if we have the end-of-life phase in the building, there are different processes how to, let's say, deal with the building. Either you dismantle it, or you deconstruct it, or there's a demolition of the building. So the building is a kind of repository of materials and building elements, and these building elements could be different kinds of brick, cable, windows, and so on. And usually the owner or the principal calls this company and tells them, okay, come please to our building, make an assessment and see what you can do with the materials. And what they do is usually either they collect the material, collect the elements, and they offer it on their own platform so the customer can buy it directly, or what they can also do is refurbish or redesign these elements and then reuse them again in a new design project. So the innovative contribution that we're aiming at, because as I said, we are at the start, to create new processes or business model which would be supported with BIM and blockchain and could be used in practice. We want to integrate various relevant AL data with BIM for lifecycle assessment and so on, material passports. We also aim at data interoperability and open data storage. And as I mentioned, this feedback loop from BIM as built to BIM as planned, as I mentioned, taking into account all the relevant parameters in order to implement this kind of thinking or circular thinking in the new design. And because we have this ongoing life cycle framework, let's say to make the whole picture complete, in the sense connecting the already existing results from the other project to the last phase in the building's life cycle. So yeah, that was my presentation very fast. So, but thank you.